On today's Windows Wednesday, we talk about these prompts we've seen showing up to sign in to use MS Paint, among a bunch of other crazy dystopian things, and why you might really seriously consider checking out other operating systems. Thanks for checking out this video by Switch to Linux. If you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel for more, and leave us a like and a comment down below. And we are going to be talking about this, and it starts out by, I saw a post over there on X or Twitter or whatever it's called this week by Linus from Linus Tech Tips, not Linus Torvalds of Linux fame, but Linus Tech Tips writes in here, I was prompted to sign in to MS Paint today. Microsoft, it should say at Microslop, when you look back and wonder what went wrong for Windows. That was it. This is what went wrong. And so he gets this sign here and says, let's get you signed in. And he shows his screen, blocks his email address there, but you can see it says Linus Tech Tips channel logo there. Now, is this required for everybody using this application? It would appear probably not, but enough information is coming on down the pipelines that the beasts over there on Reddit comes out with this one here. Love living in a timeline where MS Paint has a login screen. What went wrong with Microsoft? Because Linus is not the only person to receive this, so let's request sign in to the Microsoft Paint. All right. And so what's next? Sign in for Notepad? Curious you ask. Curious you ask. All right. We'll get into that in a minute. This is another one of these instances. Now, what most likely is happening here is, if you remember, like the Notepad, MS Paint, these are two applications that have recently had this Copilot nonsense integrated into it. And if you happen to click that Copilot nonsense, it's prompting you for this. However, who knows? Maybe this is just the latest in the updates, as we know that this last week they broke even the ability to use a terminal. Where was that one at? Yeah, Microsoft admits it accidentally crashed apps like Notepad Paint snipping tool. So Notepad Paint snipping tool. Oh, and the terminal was caught up on this one as well. Somebody's using their terminal, and then all of a sudden their system says, hey, this is not available in your account. He's literally on a command line. Okay, and this happens. And so likely now they most likely the change here, they said it was something on the back end on the server side, but curiously your Notepad, your terminal, MS Paint all pings the Microsoft Store before you open it, which is kind of on the server. What happens when you're not connected to the internet? I hope they open one way or the other. I just don't know. But likely what's going on here, as from this article 11 months ago, no, Notepad for Windows 11 doesn't require you to use a Microsoft account unless you're trying to use AI. So I'm wondering if these instances we saw with Linus Tech Tips and with this other person here on Reddit talking about this, is this some global change Microsoft just made in fixing all of these errors they introduced, that now these things do require the login? And I don't know. Now, I do know that Ivan, our channel moderator, did pull up some windows and looked at the Notepad, and he was able to, I think he looked at MS Paint, and he said he was able to get into there without it. Now, I didn't ask him if he could have the Copilot button. He might have stripped that out. But if you click on that, that's probably the case. But that was really what the summary of this article that MSN had about it. A lot of this is because if you click on that new Copilot button that they introduced last year, then this would indeed require you to sign into a Microsoft account. So is it that Microsoft has changed something, or is it that all of these instances with all this rage bait coming up happens to be because somebody clicked the Copilot button? Or maybe Copilot just wanted to be helpful and asked for a sign in either way. But there is actually some new Notepad changes and updates that are beginning to roll out. So maybe They are on the Insider program, and this is a preview of coming attractions. I don't know. January 21st, just a couple days ago from the time I'm recording this. We have a Notepad version 11.25.12.10.0, and we have a Paint version 11.25.12.19.10. And of course, both of these are featuring what? Coloring book, all AI generated stuff. Of course, they do say Coloring Book will be available only on Copilot PCs. To use Coloring Book, you'll need to sign in with your Microsoft account. That is, of course, one of the Copilot features. The Notepad version comes down with some Markdown syntax. Lord help us all. Can Notepad just remain as nothing but raw, plain text? Like, don't get me wrong, I like Markdown. I just wish I could use something without it from time to time. So when I paste in links, I don't want them to automatically create hot links. I want raw texts of those links. Markdown is starting to drive me crazy as it's integrating itself into everything right now. Even on my Nextcloud, it was my big frustration when I converted to my new Nextcloud server. And now the Nextcloud Notes is marked down by default. I have to manually intervene if I want it to remain as plain text. But at least I can do that. Hopefully we can do that over here. So like if you need to do things like have highlights and crossouts, this is what rich text formatting is for. Not Notepad, which is for text. Anyway, enough of the soapbox, but they are also integrating in all these things so you can do, highlight the text and had it edited or revised or otherwise examined, poked at, and prodded with this. And of course, you need to sign into your Microsoft account if you are doing this in Notepad. And so that really is the principle that we are looking at here, is that Microsoft is embedding this stuff in so deep, and it's frustrating people. So in addition to breaking everything, now we had to fix stuff because they pushed this thing out, which broke a lot of stuff. And then the update caused several computers to not be able to boot. And then there was another update after that I lost track of what exactly is going on, but we just end up with a lot of crazy problems. And so ultimately, Daniel over here at Microsoft Central comes out with this article, and no offense to Daniel, but I think he might be smoking something really funny, because he says, and he's overtly defending Windows here, despite this entire article documents every faux pas it has had in the last month. It's kind of hilarious. But I do like the heart of his article, and I love the ending, and we're going to use that to talk about our final principle here about why you might consider switching to Linux. So let's make a little bit of fun of Daniel with deep respects to him, that this is ultimately an article with a very good point to it. But why do I say that he might be smoking something really amazing, or maybe engaging in never mind. I'm not going to say that part is on my mind. That might be too close. But he says, Windows 11, by most objective measures, a strong operating system. Fast, stable, secure, and far more coherent than Windows 10 ever managed to be. Dude, what are you on? Fast? All of the documentation shows us that Windows 10 is faster than Windows 11 in most cases. Secure? Far more coherent? Dude, I can't use a terminal anymore. I don't know, man. I don't know. But let's go on. Engineering teams have done more impressive work modernizing the platform, albeit slowly for some. Yes, I hear you people just want to move your taskbar. Something that we could do on Windows for years until all of a sudden they decided the taskbar must be right here and look exactly like this. Because if you move it somewhere else, we may not know where to put the ad. All right. But he says, if you find any time in Windows communities, you'll find a level of frustration that feels wildly out of proportion to the OS's actual technical state. Once again, whatever he's smoking is coming out again. The actual technical state is a dumpster fire. Where have you been? Clearly, look at this. Just look at this week's Patch Tuesday's fiasco, which keeps going and going and going. And you want to tell me the technical state of Windows 11 is good? What are you talking about, Daniel? Come on. So, of course, after this Patch Tuesday fiasco, then we have the disconnect about now Windows has a trust problem. Case in point, other big news, the FBI gains access to Microsoft decryption keys because Microsoft is now hoisting them into your account after forcing you to log in and then actively removing every way that you have to set up your computer without a Microsoft account. And so we got a lot of crazy stuff going on in here. All right. And this is why I'm saying, what are you talking about? It says, so the past decade, they've slowly chipped away the goodwill of its loyal users. This is true. You know, it started with me. Even before Windows 10 officially launched, I looked at what they were trying to do and said, no, I do not want a computer that is constantly checking home, sending information about my system onto Microsoft, along with who knows what other information. I'm just not interested. They lost trust with me there. Now, other people, it will take longer and longer and longer to lose trust with. But we're starting to see that where many people want to switch away from Windows and may not be able to yet for whatever reason, actual or perceived. And that really is the thing we're looking at here. But they say it's chipping away through catastrophic failures, not through catastrophic failures, but rather through a steady drip of decisions that make people feel sidelined. Changes to the taskbar, into the start menu, ads creeping in everywhere, including the start menu, settings, File Explorer, Copilot appearing on the taskbar and in Edge, and everywhere else it has no business being, like a notepad or MS Paint. Get it out of here. We're not asking for this. All right. Insider feedback that seems to vanish into the void. They're not listening to anybody. They're doing whatever they want to do, and that erodes the trust. And that is really what we're looking at here. So people don't hate the change. They hate the surprise. I think it's a mixture. Some people do hate the change. But I do think that most people, when it comes to your core operating system, the thing that you require for your work, you require for your pleasure, you require for your entertainment, you don't want to be surprised by it automatically installing a Patch Tuesday update that bricks the whole thing. And that erodes away at trust quite a bit. Right. And so that's really what he gets at here. He says the irony is that Windows 11 is not the villain. The OS is good. Again, what's he smoking? The problem is emotional, not technical. It's the erosion of agency, the feeling that Microsoft is prioritizing its own strategic goals over the preferences of the people who actually use the product every day. That is key. That is important. And that is why I like this article. When users lose trust, even good features feel like intrusions. And that is true. And so, the reason Microsoft is trending, because they're trying to add all of this AI slop everywhere. Even if you follow, I think The Verge did this, where they took the Copilot commercial and they tried to do everything in that and found it was an abysmal failure. Of course, Windows needs your permission to continue trusting Microsoft, allow or not now. There was another one trending on. It's like, was it like, do you trust Microsoft? Yes. And ask me again later. It's like, no, where's the no button? It's going to keep on coming up. So he comes down with this idea. What can Windows do to rebuild its trust with its user base? And I want to walk through each one of these in relationship to an operating system like Linux, like I use. Number one, no ads in the core system UI. Well, guess what? Linux doesn't have ads in the core operating system, in the core UI. They don't. Now, there are a few little things. Plasma now once a year gives you a donation pop-up and notifications, which I think is inappropriate because a notification is to tell you something important, not be asking you for money. Unfortunately, the latest iteration of GNOME does it randomly and not just once a year. In fact, just in very basic testing of GNOME systems, just whether they're pre-installed onto actual hardware or just in virtualization. I myself have already seen that thing several times just in simply testing these operating systems. So GNOME's is absolutely inappropriate. But other than that, you are not finding advertisements. Now, those are, at least they're asking for funds for the project to continue, which I understand a little bit more. I still disagree with it because it's not a notification. That is not something that is what the notification, that is an abuse of the notification system. Unfortunately, Microsoft does that not to ask for money, but to upsell services that you have intentionally not set up. But no more ads in the core UI because the operating system is supposed to be there just to run things and get out of your way. Number 2, no forced feature rollouts without opt-in. Okay, this is one that Linux depends on which Linux you're on. If you're on like a Debian, you're not going to see any of these types of things. Ubuntu, you're really only going to see feature changes across the each of the 9-month cycle releases. With Arch based distros like CachyOS and a few of the other ones, Endeavor's the Arch system I'm using on one of my computers, any of those Arch systems, you may get these features rolling out. But they tend to be a lot more logical. They tend to not be things that are seeking a corporate interest. They tend to just be changes in software, whether you like those changes or not. So you have that. Clear centralized privacy controls. Yeah, Linux is like, we don't collect your stuff for the most part. There's going to be some exceptions to this here and there. But for the most part, Linux, no interest in collecting any data. Whereas Windows and Microsoft, there are no privacy controls. You can share with it a little bit of data, or you can share with it a lot of data. You can't say don't share any data, not without doing draconian things or running weird scripts or utilizing third-party services, which you should never rely on a third-party service to do something the core operating system should be doing itself. Okay, and number 4, transparent communication about roadmap changes. This one here is, big corporate, you'll find it. Some of your bigger Linux distributions will have these roadmaps, and by and large, they're pretty clear and they're pretty up to date. And I think that that's actually a really good thing. The next is a meaningful insider feedback loop. Some Linux distributions are better at this than others. Microsoft doesn't care what users have to say. In fact, they'll come out like Salty Nutella comes out the other day and just like, hey, you need to stop doing all this. We're pushing AI because people want it. Don't worry. Why do you not want it? No, we don't want it. That's the problem, Salty Nutella. We don't want your crap, okay? So we need a meaningful insider feedback loop. Some Linux distributions have this, some of them do not. I know Linux Mint, I praise it regularly for always listening to their user base, and they tend to add features that most of the users actually do ask for or make a lot of good sense. There are some distros that just kind of do their own thing, so you want to look into it if this is important to you. And then user choice and AI integrations. And he says in the article here that all of this AI stuff should be opt-in, not opt-out. Okay, I should have maybe one master update package, a voluntary update. Do you want AI slop splashed throughout your system? Yes, click here, boom. It installs an AI package which throws Copilot on my notepad and Copilot in my start menu and Copilot in my MS Paint and requires all these logins and blah, 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 AI everywhere. But that should always be something I choose to install, not something that you have hoisted upon me. And again, with Linux, for the most part, generally the using AI is a solid choice. My instance, I have a separate AI server system. I have, and I'm mostly using the Open Web UI to access it, with a few other applications for when the Open Web UI is having a few problems, as it did the other day, probably just due to bad internet connections and doing an update. But all that being said, however, AI in Linux is usually a choice. Now, there's some distros like Deepin has some AI integrations in it as well, and there's a couple other ones that I've downloaded. I'm not going to talk about them because I don't know to what level they are. I haven't looked at them yet, but those apparently have some AI built in. But for the most part, most Linux distributions are not shoving AI into the system, although there are add-ons, plugins, and other software you can install in order to use AI in your system should you feel it necessary. And that really is the approach that they want to do. So I do actually like this article here. I think that he makes a lot of really good points. And this is why I suggest people switch to Linux, because frankly, you have control over your system. You're not a corporate a corporate slave. You're not a person that you're getting all of these things hoisted upon you. Linux respects you as a user by and large, and I do recommend you have a look at Linux Mint if you are new to the Linux ecosystem. I think that it is truly is the best of the Linux distributions out there, at least to get started on. So have a look at that, linuxmint.com, and we do have a comprehensive introduction to Linux Mint. I will put that here on the end screen. You can go look for that video if that interests you. And if you're still over here on Windows and you're looking for a way off, hey, it is getting better and better and better to get off of that platform. So examine it. Even if you need to go to a Mac, I think it's probably a step up in some instances if you have software that simply you have to run and it won't run on Linux. I mean, think about the options, but I gotta say the vastest majority of people can switch to Linux without a big problem. Let me know your thoughts about all that in the comments down below.